Hi, I'm Keith. Welcome to my studio and to my YouTube art channel. Today I made this anglerfish, and I made that one back there on the wall. The one on the wall you can barely see is acrylic. This one is on paper. In this video you're about to watch, I make this thing. This is the second one I made in a series. The first one was absolutely awful. It's still on here if you want to watch it, but this one is much better. The design is better. I freehanded it. It is pencil, ink wash, and watercolor. So stay tuned. These voiceovers are always a blast to do. I have 10 minutes here. Okay, the eyeball on this thing is perfectly round. I used my little tool to do that. And I made the eyeball bigger than the reference photo that I had off screen. I wanted to make this thing look pretty fierce. If you're familiar with the anglerfish, it's a deep sea fish. And it's pretty fierce to start with, but I wanted to make this my own. Right now I'm using my 8B as in boy pencil to get my thick lines. It kind of mimics the look of ink, and I use a lot of ink in this artwork, and you'll see it coming up. But all my outlines are done with pencil. So I start off with a freehand drawing off my reference photo, which you can't see, with 2B pencil, lighter lines. Then I come in, this is kind of a style I developed years and years ago of going through and thickening up my edges. It's kind of based on comic book art. If you're familiar with the Marvels and DCs, they do a lot of this. And I'm sort of influenced by that. I don't follow any real comic book art, but I am kind of influenced by the style. So I'm going through, I'm adding a lot of hash lines here, and I'm buffering up and thickening up some edges to make this really stand out. And right now, I'm putting in my contour lines. The contour lines give me a shape, and it helps me visualize the way this thing's supposed to look. And later I add scales to it, and that helps as well. So I'm putting in all these contour lines, and this time I took my time doing it. Because your contour lines, at least in this one, I thickened them up on certain spots, and I thinned them down on certain spots, but I'm still using my 8B as in boy pencil. So right now I'm connecting my contour lines. It's a technique I just kind of made up on my own years ago. It's kind of like a separation from your highlights and from your dark areas, sort of. It's something that I just do in my brain. It's hard to explain how I do it, but it helps me out when it comes to doing my contours and my shading. So right now I'm doing some more shading here on the fins. The fins I think are pretty accurate to the actual, well, the tail fin's not quite accurate, but the rest of them are pretty accurate. And I added the bottom fin myself. So right now I'm putting in scales. And these are not your typical fish scales. These are more like lizard scales. And I know that people like patterns, and fish scales have certain patterns, but I didn't want to go to the trouble of making all those little fish scale shapes. Plus, these kind of scales I can do more with. So I'm going through with my 8B pencil and adding I think this is actually my 2B pencil, and I'm putting in my fish scales. And this really, really adds, if you're into pencil work, this part of the video is probably for you. I enjoyed the pencil work quite a bit. I do a lot of cross hatching and whatnot. Here I do a little bit of cross hatching, but I fill this all in with the scales because once I put the paint on, I wanted the scales to show through. And I've done quite a few of these pictures recently where I take my thinned down acrylic paint and turn it into watercolor. And basically watercolor paint is just acrylics that's been thinned down that you buy in a bottle. I just watered mine down right there, upper left-hand corner. That's my little tray. And I'm starting my ink washes. Now, if you're a fan of my page, you know ink wash means everything to me because it's the simplest, fastest, and coolest way to shade your pictures. I have two different ink wells going right now. One is about 40% gray, one's about 80% gray. And right now I'm going over the 40% gray because I'm just doing the basic contours where the parts of the fish connect. Because I want to do the shadows so everything stands out and looks 3D. And I've done this so many times, it's almost like clockwork. For me, in this picture, since we're in the ocean, the light is coming from the top. So all my shading has to be towards the bottom. That's pretty simple stuff. So you'll see that, what am I doing here? Okay, I think I'm going into my second layer of darks. No, I'm still on my first, so I'm doing my fins. So once I get all this stuff done, and this part here for me is fun. I enjoy the brush work as much as I do the pencil work. The eyeball for me was something special. I've been studying eyeballs for years and years and years, and I had an idea for this one, how I was going to paint it. So I had to start off with a 40% gray and kind of just cover most of it. You know, leave the bottom part of it white, because that's going to be a reflection. And I think right now, I'm going into my 80% grays, 'cause I'm darkening down some of the more prominent edges, because I really want this thing to stand out as 3D. So inking, ink wash. It's a really cool cartoon. So yes, right now on the eyeball, I just added a little bit of 80%. I think I go darker later. I'm not sure if I remember that right, but I'm adding a little bit of fish scales with the brush right now as well. And I'm darkening around the eye because I want this thing to look menacing. So I really want that eye socket to stand out. So I'm darkening that down, darkening down the chin. The underneath part of the fish is dark, because we're in the deep ocean. If you know anything about this fish, I did some studying on it. It lives in the deep ocean where it's dark. And this thing has a light that comes off its head and attracts other fish. Now, in this picture, I left that thing off. I don't know why, just a personal choice. But it's super dark. The fish comes around to the light. He pops his mouth open. The fish gets sucked in and he eats it. And these things also will eat off the bottom of the ocean, and they'll eat basically anything. They're kind of scavengers. And they're super, super ugly, and they look like pigs with fangs. And that's why I think they're cool. If you follow my art, I do a lot of pretty stuff, you know, pretty pictures, but I also do a lot of ugly stuff, because I personally think some ugly art is just as good as the pretty stuff. Now, I'm adding some color. I'm using kind of a burnt umber right out of the tube that I watered down enough that you can still see the scales through it. And that was important. That this picture is all about texture. Texture, texture, texture. I want you to be able to feel this. I was talking to somebody the other day who's a fan of mine, and they said, I can basically feel your pictures by looking at them. They seem so texture filled. And this was a picture of an eagle I did, and the feathers were so textured. It was kind of a neat picture. Maybe I'll show it to you someday. Okay, on the lips right there, I chose blue because I had this biomechanical idea. I did another fish where I made parts of it out of metal, and that was supposed to kind of look like chrome. I don't know if it worked out right, but that was my idea. And the eye reflection is on the top, because that's where the sun comes from when you live in the ocean, obviously, right? So I went with blue because the ocean's supposed to be blue, even though the ocean where he lives is black. But, you know, this is my picture. I can do what I want with it, right? So I colored the fins green because I wanted this to be a little bit different. Right now on the bottom, I'm backfilling some of the shadow with a lighter version of that burnt umber. Add a touch of white to it, but not a whole bunch. Just enough to backfill it to give it more of a 3D look. And I go over it again, and you'll see kind of coming up soon. So right now I'm using much more colors. You can see my little upper and left-hand corner where I keep all my colors. I'm adding more and more of that light brown. And so right here, what am I doing right now? I am going through and adding some dots. These dots are a lighter version of the burnt umber that I'm putting in the darker sections to add even more texture, because these are like scales. I don't know, maybe they're just little bumps. I don't know what they are. They're texturizing. So I'm adding more of those, which makes this picture really, really super cool. And it makes you want to subscribe to my channel because you want to see more and more of my stuff. And I have tons and tons of these tutorials all over my page. So I'm going through and I'm adding some more light green to the fins to make them look 3D. And where am I at right now? I'm adding the light shine to that fish. It's a little dab of pure white that really makes that eyeball stand out. Now, right now, I'm adding some light blue to the bottom of this picture on the shadow side. It's a trick. You probably see it in comic books all the time. They'll use blue to backfill the shadow, and it really adds a 3D look to it. If you learned anything from this video, learn that. The backfilling with light blue is an awesome way to add not only texture, but roundness and contours to your picture. Okay, I'm adding some more of those little dots, but I try not to overdo it, because in the past I've had pictures where I overdid it and ruined them. I'm trying to restrain myself and just make enough. I want this to look cool, but not overdone. So I'm adding all those little dots. I'm adding on dots, 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 dots. This is a fun picture to do. You know, if you want to do this yourself, you can probably give this to your grandma. Your grandma would probably love to hang this in her living room or maybe her bathroom, because that'd be cool. Hopefully your pictures get seen by more than just your grandma. But I know how it is in the art world these days. You make a lot of art and you have to give it away to somebody, right? Because nobody's willing to open their wallet and pay you for it. Anyway, so I have this really awesome looking fish, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to brag, but this was one of my favorites, and I think this picture is really cool. And I might actually go to the store and buy a frame for this and hang it up someplace. If you want to purchase it, I take the PayPal. My wife takes the Venmo. Just make me an offer. As long as it's on my page. Well, I don't know if it gets sold. You won't know. But make me an offer soon so you have a chance to get it. This would be great in a bar or something. Okay, I just signed it here because I thought I was done. Then I thought, no, I got some leftover paint in my inkwells, so I'm going to go there and just put a real super light wash over the top of this. So I had some blue, and it's a blue ocean, right? Even though he technically lives in the black ocean, and I needed to cover up that little black smudge. So I put the blue in. I had some green left over. Well, you know what's on the bottom of the ocean? Plants. So I put some green in as well. So thank you for watching this. I'd like for you to subscribe. I'd like you to go through my playlists, and thank you for showing up. And I do appreciate this, and share this with all of your friends. Thank you very much.